In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Microsoft versus FTC case and why I personally know with all of my heart Microsoft tanked Redfall just to win this case. The potential overabundance of linearity in Final Fantasy XVI and the newest upcoming release in the Pokemon family, Pokemon Sleep. Let's talk about, did Microsoft let Redfall fail on purpose?
It's hard to argue against it, truly. I mean, if you look into even things that Phil Spencer has said, like it just doesn't make any sense why they would have done everything the way that they did. What do you think?
So let me give you there's a lot of background to this. So let me give you my full story, my full explanation, and then we'll go from there. So,
all right, give it to me. I'm hearing it. I'm listening. I'm hearing it.
From the time that Microsoft came in and took over, I think it's ZeniMax Studios that somehow parent companies the people who made Prey and Dishonored. I'm not entirely sure who that is. Do you know who that is?
It's ZeniMax. ZeniMax owns Bethesda, Arcane, all those.
Okay, so at the time when Microsoft took over ZeniMax, I already seem less reliable just because I don't know who does this. Okay, so when
it's fine. We're trying to be entertaining, not reliable.
so when Microsoft took over ZeniMax, I'm under the impression that Redfall was already in production. And when this happened, Microsoft come in with a very hands-off policy. And they said that. They're like, listen, you're already doing this. We trust you guys. You've made phenomenal games like Prey and Dishonored. We're not worried about it. And I feel like both parties have kind of been in agreement with that, at least what I've seen, as far as employees and whatnot. So I don't think like Microsoft was like, let's do all these terrible things to make this game trash. I think it was destined to be trash from the jump, and Microsoft just didn't stop it from happening. So,
but why? Why would Arcane want it to be bad?
I don't think they necessarily wanted it to be bad. I think they were trying to work out of their wheelhouse, and absolutely did not do well. This is completely different than Prey and Dishonored. Completely different game. It was a multiplayer. I think there was like a super heavy microtransaction shop at one point. I don't even know if that made it into the final game. But I think the reason it was such a big cluster is from multiple like sources that I've seen in employees and whatnot who worked on the project. Like the higher ups had no direction. They were getting different instructions from different people. Some people wanted it to be this type of way. Some people wanted it to be this type of way. And I think it was really hard on the dev team because they felt like there was no clear vision of what they were trying to accomplish. So with all that teed up, Redfall was not on a good course prior to Microsoft taking over ZeniMax. And I think that boded well for Microsoft in the case. So for those of you that don't know, Microsoft was recently in a court case with the FTC over if they were allowed to acquire Activision or not. And Microsoft won. FTC tried to appeal it. That fell through. Courts denied the appeal. So I'm pretty confident very soon Microsoft is closing this deal to acquire Activision, at least here in the US. Okay. So
you're being awfully lenient. I don't know, man. Just this is a studio that knows how to make games. This is a studio that makes games that, granted, might not always blow sales out of the water, but they are the same head of studio that made Deathloop, which won all kinds of awards. Prey and Dishonored were so popular and so good. I don't know, man. Just a lot of these decisions just don't make any sense for a dev team that clearly knows how to make good quality content. I don't care if it's a different style of game. I feel like that's not a good enough excuse for you to make this sack of garbage.
Okay, I agree. I don't know either. Why it turned out this way is an absolute heartbreaker, because like it had the potential to be a pretty decent game, and it wasn't even close, man.
I saw Game Pass?
No, oh yeah, for sure. And I played it. The first 10 minutes. I think like maybe ran into 3 or 4 enemies and turned it off. I was like, no way. Because I was like trying to play like cloud gaming to see if I wanted to download it or not. Didn't even get past that. I was like, this is not good. And to be fair, I played it single player. So like it could have been much better with like 2 or 3 more people. But it was just from the rip.
Somebody was making a video for one of those gaming sites. I don't remember who it was, but I watched their video. It might have been IGN or GameSpot. Somebody had a video on it, and their reviewer said it is exponentially worse multiplayer.
Really?
Because it
doesn't scale. I was about to say that. It doesn't
scale at all. You just, if it's easy mode on single player, it's just a cakewalk when you have 2 or 3 people, because it doesn't get any harder.
So, and what I've seen, because I did not make it very far. I played 10 minutes. So take that as how much you want to take my opinion into account. Like, what I've read, the world is super like empty, feels like. There's like an empty open world with a couple things to do, but overall it just feels like, hey, we got this massive world. Yeah, it's massively empty. There's nothing to really do. I don't know if there's not like real-time encounters or what, but it's just like, anyway, it had the massive potential, I feel like. So regardless of why it became such an absolute dumpster fire of a game, I don't know. I'm disappointed because I wanted it to do well. But I think it bodes well. It obviously boded well in Microsoft's case. And let me tell you why. So Microsoft's whole argument in the case was, we're just a bunch of big losers. We've never won anything in our entire lives. They literally said we've lost the console war. So like in a legal written document, the console war is in there. It's on there in the court system, baby. Console war's there.
Thank God they admitted it.
And it's true, bro. Like if you go back and look at the sales, starting from the first PlayStation and the first Xbox has never outsold the PlayStation. Not once. I think the 360 and the PS2, the 360 and the PS2 were the closest. And I still think like PlayStation beat them by a couple thousand units. I mean, ridiculous. People say like 361 just because of like the overall community acceptance of it, but still, like not one time has Xbox outsold PlayStation. So the FTC said they weren't arguing in Sony's interest. I'm 100% don't believe that. I believe they were only worried about, this is not good for consumers. If Microsoft gets their hands on Activision, it's not good for consumers. I don't think that's the case. I think it's bad for Sony. And everyone's making memes of it. Like I saw a meme the other day. Somebody went on the FTC's Wikipedia and changed the logo to the PlayStation symbol and changed the CEO or like whoever the head director was to Jim Ryan.
That's hilarious.
No, and I love that. And it's true, man. The whole time they're like, we're not arguing just for Sony. And they're being questioned now. I read an article just before we started this actually that they're being investigated. Or like maybe the government's asking them. Somebody's asking them. Why are you investing all this money into these mergers? Like, why are you worried? And I agree. That's probably the FTC's job, but I feel like they were really doubling down, and I can't help but feel like it was really to help Sony out. So
I don't know, man. It's consolidation of power is never a good thing. Like, and Activision Blizzard is a major corporation to just be bought by an mega major corporation. I feel like it's bad for gamers. Anyway, that's beside the point. I'm not going to talk about the morality of this. What about the Xbox specific problems? Like they scheduled this game to release 2 weeks before the next Zelda.
That was an oversight. That's
an Xbox problem, top down. That was an Xbox mistake, 100%. The first Breath of the Wild blew everything out of the water. They knew that the next Zelda game was going to be crazy, and they released this game 2 weeks before.
Yeah. I also did see that Phil Spencer did clear. He did okay to say like we're going to launch at 60 FPS, knowing that they weren't going to be able to do it.
Yeah,
I did read that. Yeah, I did read that somewhere. So that is a Microsoft thing.
It fills me with so much rage, man, whenever they have these gameplay trailers or they show footage and it's just not what we're going to get as consumers. And like that is just a slap in the face and a spit on my back, like just to know that it could be so much better and you're just going to show me how great it could be and then scale it back man, it is so frustrating. Also, Phil Spencer trying to make excuses for the bugs. Quote, bugs are in the realm of expectations for a game this big. 100% disagree. And according to everybody else that's played this game, also 100% disagree. Textures aren't coming in. Like vampires are just walking around aimlessly. The AI is hot garbage.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Let me give you some examples. All right. That is Skyrim level bugginess. Okay. And it had nowhere near the draw power of Skyrim. The other Arcane games are not buggy messes. So it wasn't the studio. They know how to make a clean game. Again, this is just purposeful failing, in my opinion. You are being very kind for Microsoft. I think this was like some misdirection. Like Microsoft came in and intentionally made things more difficult so that the game would not do well. I don't think this was on a bad path from the beginning. Maybe it was, but I mean, I seriously, the more you look into this, the sketchier it just seems to be. I don't know. I'm much more aggressive on Microsoft and Phil Spencer as a whole.
And I'm not, because I'm a proud Game Pass Ultimate holder, right? So I'm thrilled to have like every single Call of Duty just hitting Game Pass. Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, like I'm thrilled. So I'm glad they won. But I don't think it's right that they should have like failed the game. Regardless, if it was a Redfall, if it was their own doing that made it happen, or if Microsoft intentionally pulled some strings to make it happen, like it happened, and they 100% used it in court to argue that, right? So,
Absolutely.
So they were saying the whole time that we're losers. This isn't gonna make us like top dog. This isn't gonna make us the all powerful. This is gonna put us on the same playing field with PlayStation. And I think they couldn't have used that argument if Redfall was a smash hit. If Redfall was a smash hit, then the FTC would have said they already have ZeniMax, who has never put out a bad game in their life. You know, with Bethesda, they've got like if this case happened after Starfield's release, do what?
Except for Fallout 76.
Yeah, okay, and even now it's better, right? Like Fallout 76 is much better now. But if I think if the case happened after Starfield, the FTC potentially could have won this case just because they would have said they have ZeniMax, which has Bethesda, and they are like, this is one of the best game launches, you know, this decade or whatever. Because I anticipate Starfield is going to be a huge game, and I think that they wanted Redfall to come out, even with it playing into that, like with the release being what you say 2 weeks before Tears of the Kingdom came out.
Zelda. Yeah,
like from Microsoft's production value or whatever they do, from their production level, they probably set it up even more so to fail. Regardless, they let it fail. Probably pulled some strings to let it fail.
You don't have to worry about Starfield because, quote Phil Spencer, when he's blaming the studio for how poorly this game did, but talking out of the side of his mouth like he's got their back, but at the same time saying they didn't live up to their expectations. Quote directly afterwards, we did a better job with Starfield, so fans don't have to worry. God, Phil, I would hope so. This is a big budget game that people have been excited about for years at this point. If Starfield released in this kind of manner, I think people would call for his job.
Oh yeah. Oh, it would be detrimental. Like Bethesda would lose so much power. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason they were allowed to sell Skyrim on smart fridges and on speakers and
on everything.
Yeah, like there's a reason it released 17. There's a reason there's 14 special anniversary deluxe ultimate game of the year 4 times edition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I'm saying. I think to play into the narrative of like, we're a bunch of losers, this is only going to make us as competitive as Microsoft or as competitive as Sony. Microsoft had to absolutely fumble hard on a developer that they acquired because they obviously fumbled Halo Infinite. And I think that was just like, that was not on purpose. I think they just royally sucked it up. And that makes me so sad because Halo has so much potential. But they sucked it up on Halo. I'm going to try to like speed past this. We got to move on to the next point. They sucked it up on Halo so bad, bro. Like people were leaving. That's how bad it was. Right?
Yeah.
And then PlayStation goes and buys Bungie.
Company, right?
Oh, yeah. And then Sony goes and buys Bungie, the company that's arguably the only company that's ever made a good Halo. All right, fight me on that one. And then, I mean, I'm just telling you, like I will. That's my opinion. That's facts almost. And I just feel like I get what they're saying. I think this does make Microsoft competitive. Like, I agree with their argument. They're a bunch of losers at this point, bro. Truthfully, like Halo Infinite, major flop. What has the Gears of War series done recently?
Bro, you forgot about their ultimate tool in the box. They're making a new Fable.
And I have high hopes for that. I have such high hopes for that because I'm a huge Fable fan, but that's going to have to be a whole different talking point. Regardless, Microsoft has.
I have such mixed emotions about it in general, but I just wanted to get back to something you said. The having something to fail from a developer they acquired. I think that's important. I think you cracked the code there. I'm not gonna lie. I think I had not thought about that until you brought it up, but I think that was really important to their case. It was not a first party studio. It was a developer that they had recently acquired that was known to make good quality games. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, like, either a happy accident, a nice coincidence, whatever you want to call it. Like, Microsoft benefited from Redfall failing to win this court case, and now, like, it's going to be crazy to see what happens moving forward with Microsoft having Activision. And you better buy stock in Game Pass right now, baby, because I'm telling you, it's about to go crazy. I'm so excited.
Call it whatever you want, an intentional or a happy accident. Some would call it an intentional market manipulation, but that's just me.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, goodness.
All right, everyone. So the next topic is Final Fantasy 16 too linear for its own good. Now, this is another thing that we obviously have differing opinions on. I did not play Final Fantasy 15. Heard it was excellent. Heard it was great. No problems. Let me tell you, I am a huge fan of linear games. The ability of a story to just take something over and really drive some emotional moments home. I don't care about the Skyrims, all right? I don't care about you being able to kill some chickens and run around and climb the highest mountains, okay? That's not true. I like those games too. But they don't have anything to compare to games like The Last of Us that are so straightforward and linear. But I know that somebody else has a differing opinion, so I'll let you talk for a minute.
Okay, so listen. Let me start off by saying I played Final Fantasy 15, and I loved it. I thought it was great. It's the first Final Fantasy game I've played. So again, my opinion might not carry as much weight. Phenomenal game. I absolutely loved it. I played through it twice, and I very rarely do that. I very rarely play through an entire game twice, but I loved it, man. It was a phenomenal experience. More disclaimer to my opinion, I have not played Final Fantasy 16. Only what I've seen from gameplay. I've seen a pretty good amount of like other things that are going on with it. My beef with Final Fantasy 16 is that there is 11 hours of cinematic cutscenes. 11 hours. Okay? You can beat the game in 30 hours. And there's 11, and a third of the game is effectively cutscenes. And I get it. It's a story game. That's what needs to happen. Make it into a movie, bro. Like if we're that, like, don't. It's not open world at all. It's very straightforward. If it's that much cutscenes and I'm just like moving from point A to point B with very little in between, make it a movie. I don't want to play this game. And even more perspective, the cutscenes last longer than the entire Lord of the Rings movie trilogy. The entirety of it. Like, you could watch the Lord of the Rings and still not be done with all the cutscenes.
But look at the amount of storytelling that offers. When you can make any choice at any point in time, it really limits what the narrative is able to do, at least in as far as what the developers want to be accomplished. You know, I really like games where you can choose a lot of different things that are happening. I'm thinking of like Mass Effect, not really the Skyrim, because to be perfectly honest with you, Skyrim story lacks a great deal from anything else I've played. But the Mass Effect storyline, where choices that you made really affected things, I love that. That was awesome. But it takes away from the narrative that the developers are trying to build. Having that time to where they can really showcase what the emotional beats. I mean, it is kind of like a movie, but it's a movie that you can interact with.
And I get it. That's a fair point. And I understand that. And I think my opinion is a little skewed and a little biased just because, and I'm going to say it, the game, not only game of the year, hands down, no competition, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to get it. Forget Diablo 4, no shot, bro. Final Fantasy 16, no shot. I mean, there's
You're
no.
gonna be surprised when Diablo pulls it through, man. There's a lot of Diablo players out there, my boy.
Bro, that's fine, but like I'm not into clicking around and doing like a bazillion T damage. I read a tweet earlier today, and they're like, the goal in Diablo 4 is to be able to deal a bazillion T damage. And I'm like, what's the point of click, click, click? Oh, I just done a quadrillion bazillion damage. Like, it's regardless. My point. Open world games are in their own category with storytelling games. I'll give you that. I think Tears of the Kingdom does a phenomenal job of telling a phenomenal story without making it be so linear. And traditionally, Zelda games have been linear. Like, until Breath of the Wild, Zelda games were extremely linear. You couldn't get to this area until you done this thing or got this item.
Yeah, they were.
And
there's still a part of that, you know, like the mountain volcano from Breath of the Wild. You kind of have to have some armor, or it's going to be one hell of a fight. But
right, and even
more open than
and even then, like, there's multiple avenues to go about it. You know, like you can do the fireproof elixir up to an extent, and then you've got to get that armor. Right. The point is, if it's too hot right now, I don't want to do that. Like, if I don't feel like going through all that trouble to try to figure out how I need to go through this hell pit on Earth, I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to go do anything else, right? With the memory system that's implemented into Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, with the shrines, with the side quests, I'm just saying, I think there's so many better systems to offer the player so much freedom to explore an in-depth world, right? Without it being so cutscene heavy and linear. And I think you tell a really good story that way, you know, linearity wise. But I just think it's like make it a movie at this point is what I'm saying. That's my argument. Make it a movie if I can't run around and pick and choose when I want to learn about this part of the story.
Well, let me ask you these questions. Two questions.
Okay.
I saw multiple articles that were talking about how it took heavy emphasis from things like Game of Thrones. I don't know if that was something the dev team said or just like a feeling, but I mean, 2 or 3 articles all with like a direct comparison to Game of Thrones, as if the storyline was attempting to be Game of Thrones-esque. So if that is the kind of nature of narrative that they're going for, does that change your opinion at all? Because you can't really do that. You know, like, certain things have to unfold in a political-driven story. Certain events have to come first. You can't have a super political, all the intrigue, the spying around, the things happening, wars. There are events that must take place in a certain order. Does that change your thought at all?
It changes my thought a lot. So that makes sense to me. I think that, again, going back to Tears of the Kingdom, some of the story, it's easier storytelling to tell because the story is told in past tense. So no matter what order you complete things in Tears of the Kingdom,
right,
the story is the same. You just discover it later. You might discover, you know, memory 14 before you do memory 10. Doesn't matter, because in the end of it, you're going to be putting the story together totally. So I do think that you have to sacrifice the present storytelling and alter the narrative a bit if you want to do the open world. And granted, like,
they have the same emotional impact depending on when they're found.
Right. And that makes sense to me. And that, you know, like, going back to Final Fantasy 15, talking about that a little bit more, that was one of those things to almost like the story didn't progress at all until you made it to the next point. And then once you've done that, nothing really changed in the world, if that makes sense. And I'm not sure how much Final Fantasy 16 does that. So, like, in Final Fantasy 15, there's at one point to where you get to a cutscene and it literally says, once you progress here, you will not be able to come back to this point for a very long time. And that very long time is when the game is finished. And then it basically does a reset time swap thing of like, hey, you beat the game, but we're going to put you back here like you didn't beat it because there's still that looming threat. Right? So
Right.
I agree with you. I think from like with political events and things that have to happen in real time, a linear story has to happen because there's no other way that those events can unfold. I wonder like how long is a cutscene going to run for before I'm like, okay, I want to be able to move and do something. And I'm sure when you're enthralled in the story, you don't really think about that. So personally, I think I'm really going to have to play the game, and then I'm probably going to have a much different opinion. Just right now on the outside looking in, a third of the game being me watching it, not me actually playing it, seems a bit overwhelming.
A third of the game is a lot. A third of the game is a lot. I will concede that to you. That is crazy. Don't think I've ever played a game with that level of split, except for maybe one game I refuse to mention because of the brevity of it, and I was filled with rage. My second question to you, sir, is that those games where they are more open, like Breath of the Wild, like Skyrim, like a little bit of Final Fantasy 15, like it seems like the way that you talk about that game is very similar. A big part of the experience in that is kind of exploration, finding things like, the hidden shrines in Zelda, going to the different environments, a lot of those things, it's like exploration based, kind of like adventure based. A lot of these reviews that I'm seeing are talking about how action heavy this game is. And I feel like for a game that's more based on action, that's more based on the fast-paced picking things up, being able to wander around the world and accomplish different things will kind of suck you out of it. And so I wonder if it was a little intentional.
And that's a fair question. I've actually seen some other people talk about this too, of like what it does lack in exploration makes up for because the combat is so well done. Like that's like people say the combat in this game is phenomenal. And
yeah, I thought the same thing.
And I'll give you that too. Like, and I'll give it to you. You've kind of swayed my opinion on the game. I wasn't even going to try it. I think I'll try to pick it up and give it a try now, just because. Again, it's such a different world, right? Like you can't hold this game to a standard or to this, like you can't rate it the same way you rate Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is quite literally a do whatever you want, build whatever you want type of game with a story in the background that still plays well to that system of gameplay. And then moving into this is a completely different type of game. I think I think you can't rate them the same way. So, and what makes me say that too is in Final Fantasy 15, there were times you're just riding in the car. Like you're literally just driving in the car on the road, which was super jagged. Like you could not get off the road until way later when you got like a DLC, I think. It was super weird. It was like almost like it felt empty, but not nearly as empty as Redfall. I'll give it that. Okay. So like the combat and the sense of urgency wasn't in Final Fantasy 15, because in Final Fantasy 15, spoiler for who's not played it, your dad basically gets killed in the beginning, and your town, your hometown, your home city gets taken over by other people, and you're exiled. Well, when you get out, having the ability to do whatever you want kind of takes away from the urgency of we got to figure out if everybody's safe. We got to figure out what we're going to do next.
Right.
And the story does take a big hit because honestly, like in games like that, you lose. What am I even doing? What's even happening in the story right now? What's going on? And it's a different gameplay narrative. So if Final Fantasy 16's goal was to be a phenomenal narrative, and I think it accomplishes that based off what I've read and stuff, I think it done it. And I think like it was just, it's almost like a just completely different take. And I'm sure a breath of fresh air to some people where open world games are kind of the big thing right now. Even the last Final Fantasy being an open world game,
Right.
And I think also, this is complete sidebar. I think Final Fantasy 16 is going to be the last numbered title in the series. I think they're going to obviously still make
Oh,
Final
is that right?
Fantasy. Yeah. I just think they're going to like title it different. So Final Fantasy 16
Well,
is the
did
last
you read that somewhere?
yeah, I actually like just saw a tweet, or maybe it was in an article like right before we started the show.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a different type of game. As far as game of the year goes, I still think Tears of the Kingdom is going to get it. I would put Final Fantasy 16 second place. I have no love for Diablo. I'll just put that out there right now.
Bro, we gotta get online and play some Diablo, brother. Diablo is so fun. I've played Diablo 3 quite a bit, and it's a good time. It's definitely a different game though, hands down. There's no debating. It's a different experience than those other games.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think that's my problem. I think that's why like a lot I'm so in love with the feeling of discovery that I get from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that when these other games don't deliver that, I feel underwhelmed. And I think it's a personal problem if you want me to be honest.
Honestly, I thought Diablo would be kind of your game because you're all about the grind. It's very grindy. It's very progression heavy.
Yeah, I think I would like it a lot more. I think I'd appreciate it if I actually sat down and played it. Again, never played Diablo, so my opinion weight here really is going down heavy. Like absolutely bashing 2, 3, 4 games I've not played, I've not touched. Like I'm losing all credibility here. But
I don't know if this is a good time to warn you or not, but Final Fantasy 16 was a PlayStation exclusive.
Okay, well, I guess I'll not be playing Final Fantasy 16 because I ain't got the money for that. See, and that just goes back to our previous point. Like, PlayStation is not hurting, bro. Like, they do not need Call of Duty. All right.
No.
Okay. Moving into our next point, Pokemon Sleep. On the go, at home, and now in your sleep. And let me just read you this tagline before we get started here. And just like that, waking up in the morning becomes something to look forward to. Let's pause here because I think if you're waking up and the one thing you have to look forward to is seeing what Pokemon you caught in your sleep, you need, realistically, honestly, seek professional help. Like, I think their tagline there, maybe a little like, you're going to love waking up now. You hated it before going to your job, but you're going to love waking up now because you got Pokemon in your sleep. It's just,
Bro, that's such a weak line. I hate to tell them, but I roll over and look at my phone for 30 minutes before I get out of bed anyway. So what's stopping me from doing that now?
Bro, let me explain to you like how this is going to work. All right. So this is like from like their official website. Place your smartphone by your pillow when you go to bed to record and measure your sleep. The longer you sleep, the higher your score in the morning, and the more Pokemon you'll see appear around your Snorlax. Your nights of sleep will be classified as one of 3 sleep styles: dozing, snoozing, and slumbering. And in the morning, Pokemon that sleep in similar ways will gather around your Snorlax. You can even discover a Pokemon sleeping in a rare style you hardly ever get to see normally. Each Pokemon has a number of different sleep styles, so see how many you can discover to complete your sleep style decks. Let me point out a couple problems I have with this off the jump. How awkward is it? I don't know how many people do this. I have an end table by my bed. That's where my phone stays. Because I feel like if it stays in the bed, especially hooked up to a charger, like, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't like that at all. So already to participate in this, your phone's got to be to some by your pillow in a weird position, I feel like. Because it's effectively just, I guess, using the gyroscope to see how much you move in the night. Not groundbreaking technology, boys. I'll go ahead and say that. And also, my second problem, the longer you sleep, the higher your score. Are we going to teach kids that we need to go to bed at 6 o'clock, sleep till 8 in the morning, clock 14 hours of sleep just to catch more Pokemon? Like, there's got to be a limit. There's got to be a limit.
There's
right?
a max. I just read it a second ago.
Okay.
8.5 hours is the max.
Okay, good. Well, at least we solved that problem. It's just it's interesting to me because it seems almost like they were in. Picture yourself, if you will, in the Pokemon boardroom, and they say, "Gentlemen,
I often do,
as one does, gentlemen, we've got them on the go. with Pokemon Go. They're walking, they're driving, they're at work, they're catching Pokemon. We got them at their jobs and in their commute. We got them at home with Pokemon Home and all of our Pokemon titles, which are doing phenomenal numbers. All right. Where are we losing out on them, boys? Give me the numbers. Where are we losing out on them? Well, sir, there's 8 hours of the day, 6 to 8 hours a day. We're losing them. We're losing them. And they're like, where are we losing them to? How could they not be? What is it's better to do than catch Pokemon? And he says they're sleeping, sir. They're what? What? No, we can't have this, boys. How do we capitalize on the sleeping market? All right,
they are capitalizing on the one untapped market, bro.
That's it. Name another publisher who is going after the sleeping market, bro. They've killed it. 8 hours of the day, they've got it on lock now. A monopoly on sleeping. It's insane to me. It blows my mind that this is a thing, and I get it. If it helps people develop better sleep habits, then great. I just feel like the same thing with Pokemon Go is going to happen. Everyone's like, this is going to get people more active and get them outside and exploring their communities, and things are going to be great. No, people were driving in their cars, getting in accidents and trespassing. That's what happened with Pokemon Go. So I'm terrified to see what people try to pull with this. Probably just lay. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Just lay their phone down in their bed, or like they purposely thrall in the middle of the night just to try to catch you. You didn't sleep great last night, but guess what? Pokemon doesn't. This super rare Glenny Pig, or I don't know Pokemon names. Something like that. This is somehow going to get abused and not used for its true intention, which would be, I'm assuming, to help people sleep better at night.
My one question is, does my sleep apnea give me an advantage? I feel like it's got.
Yes. That's it.
What better way to classify sleep apnea than slumbering?
Bro, you were all over it. This is a new level. How the elements interact with each other. If you have sleep apnea, you were absolutely crushing, dozing, snoozing, and slumbering Pokemon types. They're chalk, bro. Sleep apnea? Bro.
Bro, real talk, bro. This is foolish. This is, I mean, I guess you can't call it a money grab because it's a free to play, but it's a attention grab. Just Pokemon does a lot of things, but they will sell out in a minute to get their Pokemon in front of your face for another minute.
It's insane to me. So it doesn't have a release date yet. We just have summer 2023. And I'm just assuming that it's going to be on Apple and Google Play. This has got to be just almost a marketing thing, right?
Yeah,
man,
for sure.
People are loving playing Pokemon Go while they're at work and loving playing Pokemon when they're at home. But sometimes they just forget that Pokemon's a thing. How can we make sure that they live, eat, breathe, and sleep Pokemon Go? And someone said, whoa, what was that last one you said? What did you say? Sleep? Dude, that's it. That's it.
Also, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Pokemon Go currently hemorrhaging money because nobody's playing it anymore?
Oh yeah, I believe so. I believe I actually saw an article where Niantic or Niantic, whatever the name is having to cut projects and employees because of it. I think there was supposed to be maybe a Marvel game that was a real world game that they were working on, and they've stopped production for it. And I'm assuming if Pokemon Go was doing great, that wouldn't be the case. Well, I feel like COVID had a lot to do with that, and I feel like they made some corrections or some changes they could do to where you can now catch Pokemon this far away from your house or whatever. Well, if I live 20 miles from civilization out in the country, like some people do, that's not helping me none. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But this thing I just Googled says in the last 30 days, they've lost 400,000 players.
Yeah, I'm sure because I think they recently just made that change to where you can't do the long distance things. You know what I mean? I think they've been kind of phasing those out. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. So backtracking to this, Pokemon Go Plus, you can use the Pokemon Go Plus, which I'm assuming is just an external gyroscope tracker. You can use that to track your sleep. And it even, listen to this. Pikachu's familiar voice can give you cute prompts when it's time to wake up or when it's time to go to sleep. So rather than using your phone, you just sleep with the little Pokeball thing.
Oh, thank God. I didn't want to crush my phone in the middle of the night.
I just like what happens, right? If you like actually just like knock it off and then it hits the floor. So then like, does it signal for like emergency services? Like it's hit the floor and they've not moved in 15 minutes. Big thump, not moved in 15 minutes. What happens then? Right. I don't know. I think I don't
like
even
a life alert.
like a life alert for children and people obsessed with Pokemon. Sidebar, let's just wrap this up. I'm going to be honest. I think this is just a marketing thing for Pokemon, just to be out there some more. I think, they're probably trying to actually do a good thing and help people with getting their sleep right. Because say you've got a kid who wants to stay up all night playing Pokemon. Well, now go to sleep and play Pokemon. Right? It's cute. The art style is cute. I think like they have good intentions.
I'd never thought about it in the realm of like kids that want to stay up all night trying to play Pokemon. I guess that would be the one. I guess I was thinking, people our age,
adults, grown people. No, I think that's the market. I think it's children who you want to see how well they're resting, you want to see how well they're sleeping, and they want to get like a better sleep schedule because sleep is important for a whole lot of things. So I want to humanize Pokemon and say like that's what they're doing. They're trying to obviously marketing, but at the same time, like there is some good behind it.
I know you were just trying to humanize Pokemon, but let's not forget there's a microtransaction store available. So if this is aimed at children, great way to make a lot of money.
Oh goodness, oh man, Dad. No, that's it. I was like, Dad, can I get $5 to get a sleep booster tonight so I can attract some more Pokemon in my sleep? Dad, now here's what's happened. Like, how can we charge children? How can we use the Pokemon Go microtransaction store while people are home? Now they're like, we've got them. You spend $5 to go to sleep. Bro, Pokemon is onto something that nobody else thought about. Forget the whole humanizing thing. They are not out for well-being. They're 100% trying to microtransaction your life. Next thing.
Not gonna lie, it could be because the thing that I read said like if your Snorlax is bigger, you're gonna get better Pokemon or at least like more rare Pokemon. And like a lot of the microtransactions are like different ways to feed your Snorlax to make him bigger.
Bro, I'm sure that's what it is. Bro, well, like begs the question, what's next? Pokemon potty? Every time you go to the bathroom, like every time you take a nice deuce, that was a 10-minute deuce. You attracted 3 Poopingtons or whatever. I don't know Pokemon names. Like, it's ridiculous. And then you're paying to poop. You know what I mean? Or like Pokemon food. How much have you ate today? Track your calories. Submit a picture of your meal. If you had a spicy meal, you've attracted a Charmander. I knew that one. Like, you know what I mean?
I think we really need a Pokemon Hydrate because my water intake has been really lacking lately.
Here's what we need to do. Forget the podcast. How do we get in front of these Pokemon devs and pitch these ideas? Pokemon Hydrate, Pokemon Food, Pokemon Potty. That's our salary, bro. Like we have made the company millions right there. It's lights out. And how many, bro, name a person who's not on their phone while they're using the bathroom.
That's true.
Dude, it's lights out for these kids. I'm telling you, we have killed it. Pokemon.
Quick shout out to Game Freak. If you ever see this podcast, please hit us up. We would love to come and make new apps for you.
That's it. Get your people in touch with our people. And our people is me and Logan, because that's us. Oh man, that is, dude, honestly, I'll probably try it. Like all jokes aside, I'll probably try it. I'll probably do it once. And then I'll get so aggravated that I've got the phone in the bed. And then I'll stop. And then just see how it goes from there.
It's just so wild, bro. They are trying to corner every sector. But I mean, hey, kudos to them for trying.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening in. Next week we'll be back with even more divided gaming discussions. Just a quick recap for what we covered today. We talked about Microsoft sacrificing Redfall to make way for Call of Duty. Great move, by the way, personally, my personal opinion. Final Fantasy 16 is more of a cinematic experience than a game. And how Pokemon wants you to literally never stop trying to catch them all.